Okay, it says it's scheduled.
Okay.
Oh no, there we are. Yeah, we're live.
We're live. Awesome.
Yeah, I see
Hello.
it.
Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. So we got another special, awesome stream happening today. So our stream is gonna be focusing on the recent stream that we just had on Friday with my friend Bryce, that they are a Starfield developer. And today I'm joined in with the Friar, that we're going to be going over some of the things that we talked about. I do want to mention as well that this stream is going to be a little bit different, so do bear with us while we try to tweak some of our audio and get this situated. We do appreciate the patience, love, and support you guys give us here, Fairy Godmother Gaming World. And I'm going to put in links into our chat for our Twitch, our Discord, our YouTube, of course, and our sponsors as well. Our Discord is the best way to reach out to us if you have any questions about the streams that we're going to be doing up and coming in the future. That's the best way to reach out. If you want me to do more interviews, definitely let me know. You can pop that in the general and I'll answer you guys. And hello. And I also want to bring in as well, the Friar and I are actually working on some of the games for Fairy Godmother. So we'll be, as we're going over the stream review, we're going to be talking about some game development questions. Do keep in mind some of the things we may not be able to answer due to NDA reasons. And with that, we are off. So I'm going to go ahead and start this one. Let me fast forward this just a little bit. Okay, so for this stream, it's gonna be with. Let me make sure that's coming through. All right. So before we start getting to the nitty gritty stuff of everything with Bryce, Friar, I do want to ask you some questions as well, and it's pretty general stuff. You and I have been working in game development for quite some time. Um,
hmm
hearing and seeing the process of like some QA stuff. You've been in it with me as well. When Bryce answered some of the questions that they were answering, like, oh, it takes a lot longer than they expected. Is that something that you were coming into video game development, like seeing how long that process of QA stuff is?
Yeah, QA it's definitely a really long process because with every new thing, you kind of have to test everything out to see if something is working well or not. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, you need people that are trained for that, people that could essentially just break games and see what's wrong, what needs to be improved. So, it's a process that I knew about, and it's definitely a very lengthy process. But like, I've only made like very small games with some other people. So for a game as big as Starfield is, I can only imagine just how long all the QA testing would be.
Let me lower that real quick. Okay. Let me make sure that's not too loud. Oh,
Oh, the stream is delayed on my end a little bit. So when you said "Love Me Lord," that I was like, "Oh, wait, what?"
oh no, sorry about that. No, it's a little delayed when it does that on YouTube. I'm gonna try to keep the audio kind of quiet, just so it's not talking over. Otherwise, it's gonna be like two scribes going on in the background. That'll be confusing.
Mhm.
But yeah, like working on game development stuff. I'll go ahead and pause that real quick. So yeah, like working on game development stuff has been pretty interesting too. Oh, it is a bit delayed.
No, it just usually happens with streams in general. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I'll keep
I
that
think
in mind.
there's a way to turn it off. There's a way to like completely get rid of the delay, but
Oh.
usually for most streams, there's always a little bit of stream delay.
Okay. I mean that makes sense. Hello, I did not want that ad to pop up. Okay, I'll keep that in mind for sure. So I'll be pausing it some more often then, and then I'll wait before I start it again. All right. Thank you for letting me know. But yeah, and like you and I kind of started off. I know you were working on some our 2D game, our dating game, for a little bit, and then I know you focus some here, and then also working on the VR project for seeing the different levels, not just of quality assurance, but also just working on games. I myself found it very interesting seeing how different it is. You have to go about making different style of games, right? Because on one of them where it's all 2D, but in our virtual reality game it's all 3D. Like everything's 3D. You have to go in there, make sure everything works. Like from when you were making games, from before you were working here with us on everything, like what's something, because I know Bryce talks a little bit about it, like what's something that you brought in when working in game development that you didn't think you were going to bring in?
Something I brought in, like a skill set of mine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when learning games design, so I started in 2019 when I started taking classes for it in school and whatnot. And I didn't think like for UI, I'd be going in Photoshop a lot and basically doing a lot of graphic design stuff for UI to make sure the UI looks good in games. So that's like one thing that I just didn't expect that I would have to do when it came to video game development. I thought it'd just strictly be coding, but making your own assets and
Mm-hmm.
things of that nature is something that I never really thought about, and I didn't think it'd be something that I'd have to do. But getting into the whole game development scene, I learned that you'll have to make your own assets, make your own UI. Of course, there might be some free stuff out there, but for the sake of making your own projects and things like that, it might be the best to make whatever you can on your own, make whatever assets, make whatever UI elements you need to on your own. So I was going in and out of Photoshop, making like menus and things like that, home menus, like your UI if you have a health bar or anything like that, your timers, and just make sure that everything all meshes well together with each other.
Yeah, that's definitely something, like I know for me, when I started doing some stuff with game development, I started off doing like 3D model and art assets. Later on, I started to develop like I kind of understood where I was and where I belonged within the video game development process. So I do a lot of project management, timekeeping, and all that great stuff, and making sure everything's going well, as smooth as possible. In communication, I really never saw myself as a leader when I first started off as game development. And I know over time, it's like, okay, this is something that I'm comfortable with. I understand how to talk to people, and I understand, like, hey, people sometimes we mess up on like scheduling, or we miss something, or we forget something. It happens. But trying to keep that as smooth as possible, I know that was one thing that I did not expect that I would ever use in something like making video games. So I know that was like a concern with some people when trying to get into games. It's like, oh, I've been studying this or that, or how am I going to bring that into games? It's like, you will be surprised what you can bring into working within video game development. Maybe you like marketing, maybe you like doing stuff with money, finances. Everybody needs that. We need to know how much what we're spending and paying and all that stuff, how much your game's gonna get released. So, it's gonna be a lot of um that kind of in-depth stuff when reviewing some of this stuff with Bryce. They go into fantastic detail about working with uh contract work and then becoming a full-time developer, like with that, like full-time employee on various companies too. It's pretty cool. So I know this part, I was just doing the introduction now, so we're
In the
gonna
game
go
development
forward.
industry, a lot of people think games happen one, two,
Yeah, but
three.
like
Okay, you're done.
there's a
Until some
lot
people
in game
figure you
design
out
that a
and
lot
do
of
some
people don't
stuff.
think about, and you
And
don't necessarily have to
my
be
own game
a
development
programmer
PR
or the best programmer out there. There's definitely something for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
as you said, with marketing. And yeah, it's a hard industry to break into, but there is something for everybody. And since this is entertainment, there's definitely something for everybody, um, to either enjoy or if you want to like get into the whole game dev process.
Mm-hmm. So I also figured out that my audio's picking up you twice, so there might have been an echo because it's through the desktop audio and then also through Discord. So I was like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Well, that's on me. So I'll go ahead and let's see. So right now, this is just a lot of the intro stuff. Let me. Okay, so let me go a little bit here. So this is where I'm starting to talk about like specifically this game. So I'm gonna go ahead and unmute. So whenever I'll let you know, I guess, when to talk so we don't get that echo. I'm not sure how to make it where it's just the video coming through. Let's see.
You could do a window capture of, actually, would that work?
That's what. Let me try that again. Oh, some technical things. Hold on. Boop. This is this one. Okay. Let me see. Because I have Starfield. Question mark? Will that work? Let's see. I'll have to resize this one on. Okay. Okay. Oh, you're gonna see like a little me and then a big me? That's gonna be weird. Let's see. Just hide. Just shloop. There we go. We should be good. Let me make sure that's switched. That. Need to go. Okay, so we should be good. Man, why does that keep popping up?
There's so much to see. It is
Yeah,
wild.
so here I'm
How
just
much
talking
stuff
about
there is to
like
see in this game.
getting
Friends of
straight
mine haven't played it
into
yet, or curious about what
playing the
people
game and
think.
stuff.
Playing
So let's
Starfield,
freeze.
the newest game that Bethesda just came out with. So it's gonna be super exciting to see everything. So, working on games, you said you worked on this for about 2 years, and even though this game was in progress for a long time, were there any other companies that you used to work for beforehand?
Um, Officially, I was a concept artist intern for Activision,
All right.
and I so they the thing I worked on they called it pre-production.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't even actual pre-production. It was just like testing the waters on on a game that I cannot talk about because of it.
Yep,
And
NDA
unfortunately,
stuff, yeah.
yeah, unfortunately, they're never going to release that game, so I'll never be able to talk about it.
So that's actually one of the other things about game development, right? They brought up some terms that maybe some people may not know about. So pre-production, if you're in film, that's a term that we use as well as video games, TV shows, things like that. Theater as well. So that's just all stuff before it's finalized, before the product's released, before you're starting to really see everything come together. So it's a lot of the concept art that's coming in. A lot of the very early testing, if even any programming involved at this point. And if it is, it's very basic stuff. It's like, okay, can we get a start menu up and running and everything? But some of the stuff that Bryce had mentioned too was they had said that they didn't even start off in Activision. They started off at a smaller company and it was a contract position. So I know there's been a lot of people that want to, when they first start working in game development, they want to do like immediately work with games like we're gonna go with Bungie, for example, right? It's like, oh, I want to make, they made Halo. I want to work on a company with them. Maybe 343 Industries, or maybe even Bethesda themselves, or other companies too. But getting into game development is a very difficult field to get into. And Bryce talks about it a little bit more, that it's difficult in the sense that it's very competitive, but it's also a lot easier now because it's remote work. But I do want to say, for anybody who is adamant on working on video game development, start off with small companies. Look around, if you're in college, look around to see if there's any like video game development clubs. Join with them. Do small things like game jams. If you don't have anybody, there's a lot of cool stuff online. If you want to ask me any of that kind of questions, let me know in the Discord as well, or even in chat live. That's fine. I'll answer them as best as I can. But it's working on small things. And even if you get lucky enough that within your area there's a small independent company, like something like us, right? We're a small startup company for video game development, and we're working on 2 VR worlds. They're both for mature audiences that will be categorized, like we have a free world and then another world that's membership exclusive, and then we offer different things. But I know we want to do stuff like meet and greets and workshops and all that really cool stuff. Again, it just depends the world you're in. But then we're also trying to make sure that we're able to really understand what to do in game development. That's not just, okay, what's the big picture? What can we do within a timely manner that is still within our skill sets, but something that we can improve upon? So we have that 2D dating game that we're working on right now, where it's like, okay, it's a big scope project and then something that if you're new to game development you can work on. That's a cool thing. So just keeping an eye out for those opportunities, because you just have no idea where that's going to come up for anybody else. Friar, I remember you saying earlier in the stream too that you started off working with making some small games too. How did that go for you too?
So the first game that I developed, it was a class in college, and basically like the lesson was you weren't gonna be able to finish the game in the time that you had, so you had to make do with what you had. And basically the whole like lesson of it was to start small. Don't like That's what our professor was trying to tell us with the whole project, that uh they didn't expect us to finish it,
Mm-hmm.
right? For it to be like 100% finished and polished and stuff like that. Just for the lesson of you start small.
Yep.
Um, so making like smaller games, it wasn't too big of uh, a learning curve for me, or a learning issue, just because I was already programming
Mm-hmm.
before that. This was just programming specifically for making games, so I was familiar with the language and a lot of the terminology. But when it comes to game design and how you and Bryce were speaking about how hard it is to get into and how you should start small, yeah, it is. It's definitely a grind, and you have to start small. A lot of people, when they come into game development, they want to make like the biggest, you know,
Mm-hmm.
most amazing project ever. And if you're going in not starting small, or not even trying to start small and skip steps, you're definitely going to be humbled in more ways than one. And hopefully it doesn't discourage anybody, but just gets the point across that, everybody starts from zero. You start from zero and you work your way up, just not only for game development but just everything in life. You see how here we are streaming, and for anybody that does stream, you know that streaming and content creation is also a very very huge grind. So it's always remembering that everybody started from zero. Even your favorite game developers or your favorite game companies, they all started from zero. Everybody starts from nothing and works their way up. So always remember that, to start small, work your way up, and you'll definitely see the rewards come in. The more you do it, just don't give up. Be persistent.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, that's really great advice. It's literally just don't give up. I know that and then the project size, my thing is, I know when I first joined one of the game jams I was in, my very first one in college, which funny enough was also VR stuff. My professor was like, make the next like Flappy Bird. Don't make the next Skyrim. How successful a game like Flappy Bird is, and that's like everybody's first project to learn in programming. And look how popular and like just big it got. But it's a small game. But look, this is the successes that you can get starting small. You would be surprised.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Um, it's like because you never know what anybody likes or what like a lot of people will find entertaining. So maybe it's something that you might not find you yourself, you might not
Mhm.
find it to be great or entertaining, but think about all the other people that might. Like there's something for everybody out there. So if you have an idea, whether big or small, if you're starting off, hopefully it's small so you don't stress yourself out.
Mhm.
Just go for it. Go for it and you never know what could happen. There's been a bunch of small games out there. Like you mentioned Flappy Bird, been a bunch of small games out there that get big just because a lot of people find them entertaining and if you have an idea, just go for it. You may not think it's the best idea, but it might be entertaining to other people because this is entertainment. So what one person may not like, there might be a bunch of other people that do like it.
Mhm. I'm gonna go ahead and start this one
But
again. Yeah.
that internship was
Wait,
very cool
what?
because I also, while I
I
was
keep
doing that, I
putting
also
that
got
over
to
there.
see the
He.
development of like at the time they were making Tony Hawk and that hadn't been announced. They were working on the World of Warcraft, the remake, or I think it was something. Yeah, it was some kind of remake or remaster.
Mhm.
Um, and then there was, I believe, the Diablo 3 remake, and I think that was it. It was because it was four
So
games
they're talking
total.
about their time in
Because
Vicarious
it was for
Visions.
Vicarious Visions, and
Look,
Vicarious
there it
Visions
is.
works on a bunch of different stuff and
Mhm.
collaborates with other Activision studios. So
Yeah.
they were doing a whole bunch of different stuff, and that was amazing. That was great.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. Wow. Just real quick. So you got to see all those games just working with one company essentially, right?
yes, I think that's probably a very rare opportunity. Although I'm not because it really depends on the studio, but not all studios do that.
Yeah, because I was about to say, it's just they're really like diversing themselves out there, just like, hey, we're gonna work on this and that and this and that. Like, that's really cool. You get to see all those fun stuff. I know it
Yeah.
can get really challenging, especially working within game development. It's difficult to kind of get your foot in there, seeing all these things, and it can be a little discouraging, but I do know that it's working hard towards it and keep going to networking events and all that fun stuff. Really,
Yes.
that helps a lot of people. Um, but they do have some other questions too, in regards about video game stuff. So a little bit more about you before we start getting into the nitty gritty stuff of it, right?
Yeah.
It's did you always want to work on video games? So I want to ask that question to you, Friar. Did you always want to work on video games?
Actually, yeah, I did. Just because I've been playing video games for a very long time, so I've always wanted to work on video games and uh learning game design and computer science was always the way to go for me ever since like I was young. So
Hmm. Yeah, see, like, and that's always cool. Honestly, when people are really young and they figure out what they want to do and just go for it, like immediately from the get go, I'm always so like impressed when people do that. Because for me, even currently, I keep like switching. I'm like, oh, I want to do this. No, I want to do that. No, I like this. Like, I first started off in film. I used to be a storyboard artist and I worked in like some horror films and all that stuff. So sometimes I'll play like Phasmophobia, right? And I'll talk about some of that horror film aspects I've put in there, why it works, and all that fun stuff. And one of the things I realized later on, which is, what we were talking about, is are the skill sets that I have working in the video games. Like, I never thought I would be 3D modeling, doing project management and stuff for multiple games. Um, that was never within like my 10-year plan, like what I'm gonna do down the road. I know I always liked playing them, but I brought in one skills from one field and put him in another, and I was like, I think this is where it's at for me. Go ahead and
Yeah, I
save.
understand.
Yeah.
And it's great that like you've worked on other stuff that you can take within other fields. And hopefully since you've worked on other stuff too, and hopefully with other people, there's the networking aspect as well
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
I feel to me that's one thing I definitely need to improve on because for a while I'm just like, yeah, I can learn how to do this myself, you know. And while I can, it's always great to have connections because you never know where that takes you. And networking, I think, in terms of just life in general, but especially in this field, networking is probably one of the most important tools that you could have. If you're good at networking, I think you can do pretty much anything. The world's in
Mhm.
your pocket.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely networking. Oh my gosh. You have no idea how important that is. Your skills can be awesome. They can look like the best thing ever. Your ideas, your writing, everything. But if you don't know anybody, that's it. You're kind of stuck, which is it's a shame, but that's also why you want to do stuff with your schools, local stuff, online things too. And it is a process. It will take time. Trust me, it takes quite a bit of time. Sometimes you won't see anything for a few months, maybe up to a year. But if you keep putting yourself out there, talking with people, and like talk with people, here's my thing. Talk with somebody to get to know them. Don't talk to somebody to get a job.
That's very important. Yeah, you have to overall, yeah, you have to be a good person. Don't be selfish. There's
Mhm.
definitely a lot of people that I've talked to that have had selfish motivations, and eventually the thing is it's hard to keep that up because eventually like you'll get found out. So
Mhm.
definitely talk to people to be friends with them.
Yeah.
And later on, if you find out that oh they're in the same field as you, then you can get into that discussion. But of course, you have to be their friend, be a good person. Don't be selfish.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely, 100%. Because I've had that happen before, and I try to keep the benefit of the doubt. It's just like I get it. You're trying to get your foot into the door and everything, but I'm not. Don't talk to me just so I can be that reference, and then you never talk to me again. Because it's
Hmm.
happened before for some other people, where it's just like, all right, well, thank you, I suppose. So just chat with people. Most people, like I promise you, the second you learn that somebody else is in game development, you guys will just talk and bond and become friends that way. And then fingers crossed, things get going, and people get talking. They might even be like, "Hey, there's this position," and blah blah blah, and bam, there's that entrance. But again, it's what you said. You're not starting off with selfish intentions.
Hmm.
I'll go ahead and
I
continue
think
this
so.
and we'll hear their
Um,
answer.
I was I can't remember like when it started or even like what my first game that I ever played was. Although I have a suspicion it was probably Tetris. um, because I found an old, I think it was like an original Game Boy or something in my old house I grew
Hmm.
up in, and it had Tetris. So I think that that might have been what started it. But I don't know. I just grew up playing a whole bunch of games. Like I had a PlayStation, I had a Nintendo DS, I had a what is it? Nintendo GameCube. Like
Nice.
I had
Yeah.
a whole. I don't even know why I start. Why what happened? I just had all the stuff that I remember. Um, and like I just loved playing games, and like they were always a comfort to me. And like I knew I didn't want a desk job either. Even well, I say that, but this kind of is a desk job, but it's better than a normal desk job. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, I just always loved games, and so I just wanted to work on them because I wanted to help bring the joy that video games brought me.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it just kind of evolved from there.
Yeah, I think that's
Is the stream paused? If you're speaking, I can't hear you.
Oh, whoops! I had myself muted. Hee hee. Um, I was gonna ask. This is a question that goes out for everybody. Is what was your first video game? Because mine was Toe Jam and Earl. I know I just dated myself, but that's alright. Like the one for the Sega. That game and that console and that era of games was made before the save feature was ever invented for games. So you had to beat it in one sitting.
So my first game, that's kind of a tough one. I'm trying to think back, cause it was either one of the Spyro games that was
Hmm.
on the PS1. Can't remember which one exactly, but that's a series I really do like. I do like Spyro. Uh, so that was like one of the first games that I've played, but the first game that I owned and played a lot because I didn't own that game. So the first game that I owned was one of the ATV games, which was like the motorcycle racing games on the PlayStation 2.
Ooh, racing games. I can't do racing games. I've tried. Those who used to watch my streams know that I cannot drive digital vehicles at all. Always been a
For
thing
me,
to,
it depends on the game. If it's a racing
Mhm.
game, if it's a racing game, sure. If it's like an open world game, yeah,
Mhm.
I can control the vehicle well, but I'm definitely, since that competitive aspect is gone, since I'm by myself, I'll definitely open myself up to messing up a bit more and just experimenting and going crazy with stuff.
Oh my gosh. I'll go ahead and start it again. And then we'll probably skip around too. I do want to keep the stream probably till like 5 p.m. Eastern time, around there, because I know there's a lot to go into, but I don't want to have the stream be too long either. I'm trying to keep conscious of that as well. But before we do continue on with the stream, I do want to thank our sponsors, Magic Feet Compression Socks, for supporting heroes and winners. On the Scribe today, I'm going over the interview that I had done this past Friday with a game developer for Starfield. Their name is Bryce, and I'm going over that today with our good friend, The Friar. We're both in game development as well, and we're working on multiple games too as we speak. And so we'll talk a little bit about that as well as some of the stuff, maybe like um, advice or game developer questions as we review this stream. And I'm going to put in links to our social medias and our sponsors as well. And I'll go ahead and I'll start the video. And even though this isn't like an interview with you and me, it does kind of feel that way, but it's also like, I want to know your stuff too, and I'm sure the viewers do as well. And if any of the viewers, if any of you guys have any questions, be it for Bryce, I'll message them and they'll probably tell me something and I'll try to get back to you on that on the Discord though. I won't be able to do it live today. Or if you have any questions for us, for video game stuff, what our game is about, our games, we have multiple. Definitely let us know. And then again, we will answer them as best as we can, just because we are under NDA contract. I'll go ahead and I'll start the video again. A lot of people ask like, hey, what did you always want to play video games and do stuff? No, I really it's funny that you were kind of very early on that you were interested in working in game development stuff. I know for me it took me a couple years before I finally nailed it down, like this is what I want to do. I want to work something with this and everything. And that's all right. I feel like a lot of people kind of feel stress where it's like I have to always work in video games. I could only talk about video games. It's like, nah, you could talk about other stuff. You could work on other things. And then eventually, you might eventually get into working in video games. And,
Yeah,
mhm.
there are a lot of skill sets that transfer over that aren't related to video games that will transfer over into video games,
Oh,
even
absolutely.
if it doesn't seem like it at first glance.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And also,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I will add, I don't think I ever actually thought I would get into video games. I remember like there were times where like I wanted to be a veterinarian, I wanted to be like a biomechanical engineer or something like that. Some stuff like that, stuff involving science. But the reason I didn't pursue science is partly because I'm really bad at math, and partly because I find the stuff like scientific papers are so boring. Um,
Yeah, it can get pretty challenging.
yeah, so video games was just a more it was just a better fit for me.
Hmm.
And I'm very lucky that I was able to get into the industry, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, and speaking of the industry, there's been a lot of hullabaloo happening with our favorite game industry and engine right now, Unity. So
Yep.
I want to talk a little bit about that. There's those who aren't aware, Unity recently did some very funny things. I would highly recommend doing some research on the side about it. There's a lot to talk about. And some of the biggest things that does affect me, and not just me, but like what I do and the company that I work for, especially since we are a startup working on video game development and a lot of others too, even if they're not startups, is everybody's getting affected by what Unity is doing right now. And even people who are their competitors are getting affected by it. So what do you feel about what's going on with the state of the game right now? Unity. That's that's been a crazy thing. I know I answered the question in the stream in the interview itself. For going you're doing programming stuff. How's that like affecting you? Since I know a lot of programmers start and go into Unity to learn how to program some more. How's that been affecting you?
So let me give a brief history of uh, my experience with Unity.
Hmm.
My first experience using it was in 2019 when I took my first gaming class, which was not computer science centric. So of course, coding was still there all around. I don't have to explain that too much, but I never wanted to use Unity, to be honest.
Hmm.
And it's not because I dislike the program or anything like that. The program is definitely good, especially for people starting out. But because it wasn't industry standard, and the industry standard was leaning more towards the Unreal Engine, I was like, I want to learn that on my own time. But eventually, I just because Unity was what like the schools used, I just ended up becoming a full on Unity programmer. And Unity, it was great. Unity, I've learned a lot on Unity. That's basically what's taught me everything about like game design and Unity specific stuff and tools like that.
Hmm.
So Unity was great, and it's definitely helped me a lot, and I've made a lot of games through Unity. So
Hmm.
it's played a big part in my game development journey, and I'm definitely grateful for the experiences that I've had using the program. But with the recent changes, it's something that was one very odd to me, but very shocking as well. Um, as I do have some like of my own projects that I do on the side, and it was very concerning to me when I heard the news, and it's like it was kind of like betrayal. It's like the person that you've known for so long just ends up turning their back on you. That's how it felt because that's how long I've used Unity for. Um, and it's just I can't wrap my head around why they would do that, and the trust has been broken. Like the thing is, I feel like it's at a point where you can come back from this, and of course we don't know everything yet, and as time goes on, we'll learn more. But I feel like with the initial announcement, trust, like the trust between Unity and developers has been broken, right? And it's gonna take a lot to bring that back.
Mm-hmm.
If it can't come back.
Yeah, it's
But
gonna be an interesting thing. I think it can. They definitely have a lot of trust building to come up back from what they did. I think it's possible, but it's gonna take a while.
yeah, it's gonna take a while. Once again, it's kind of like since I've used Unity for a long time, it's like and I know a lot about it. To give an example, it's just the best friend turning their back on you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and in order for them to come back, they're gonna have to rebuild that trust. So uh, we'll just have to see what the future has in store for Unity and its developers. But I think a lot of people are already jumping ship, so like they have a lot of work to do already in terms of clearing stuff up and making sure the proper communication is there between them and the developers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a huge thing too is communication with everybody. Also, hello, it's going great. We are, reviewing the interview that we did with game developer Bryce on this past Friday, and we're just as the stream goes on, like I'll bring up some questions in the stream, and then I'll kind of either like rephrase it or I'll ask the Friar, his take on. Right now, we're talking about the whole Unity debacle, right? Like how that's been affecting people personally. And I go in here a bit in the stream itself or in the interview itself talking about like how it's been affecting a lot of independent companies as well as AAA companies. So we'll do a little bit of that. Let me see. I'm trying to keep an eye on the time. So we have about like an hour ish left. There are some parts because I don't want to do the entire thing. I do want to focus on some key points as well that Bryce does bring up. And then, I still want to leave some time if anybody does have any questions for us, that's still out there. So we'll go ahead and we'll start the video again. And then this segment's going to be going over about Unity and, their opinion on the, on what's going on and seeing it through the lens of somebody who is working on a AAA company, especially in game development, especially with Unity.
Oh, I've been thinking about that a lot. Like I have a lot of emotions towards it, and none of them are positive. And I've been thinking, like, because I wanted to speak up about it, but like I don't know what to say. Everything I've thought about is stuff that other people have already said,
Mm-hmm.
and then the rest of it is just stuff I shouldn't be saying on the internet. um, but yeah, it's just this situation is crazy. I feel like Unity has just eroded all their trust, and like even if they decide to not go through with this at all, nobody is going to want to actually use their engine anymore because
Mm-hmm.
they've
Yep.
they've just destroyed that trust.
Exactly what
And
you said, Friar.
I've heard a developer say, I don't know if this is official, but I heard a developer say it's because Unity, they need more money to support their what they're doing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But even if that's true, the way they handled it, the way they did all this and I guess marketed it and everything, they did a terrible job of it. So even if their intentions were uh positive, quote unquote, um, the way they did it was not at all. So it's not. It's just bad.
Yeah, it wasn't a good thing. I know some of the stuff was just like, what's going on? What do we do? Hold on. Sorry, just got into this. I'm like, okay, we're gonna do some fun stuff while I make the character. I think
Heck
it'd be
yeah.
fun to make a fairy godmother. Yay!
Oh,
Because
the
we're Fairy Godmother
character
Gaming World.
customization
I'm
is
the
so much
Scribe,
fun.
and today we're interviewing one of the developers of Starfield.
It looks
They're a
fun. It
QA
looks really really fun.
quality assurance
I feel like I could spend just
worker, and it's
hours
been awesome just
in there.
hearing about the little stuff that they do. Their name is Bryce. I think if I wasn't on stream, I would have been like, okay, we're gonna spend like a really long time in here because a lot of people saying that they do that. They've just spent hours in there.
I can see why. I understand completely.
Gotta have
Mhm.
a party.
There you go. See, party time. Woo. There you go. Even if it's not your party, that's okay. You could just like pretend that it's your party.
Yes.
Yeah,
The
it's interesting though working on the because for the games that we're working on, we're making two here at Fairy Godmother Gaming World. We're making two virtual reality games, VR games, and we're working on that is a 2D dating simulator as well, all within using Unity. The stress that it has caused me because I'm the project manager for the all of those games has been a lot, but you know what, we got together, we figured things out, and we're keeping an eye on what's going on with Unity. If anything needs to be changed, it's completely possible. It's not the end of the world. That's a good thing about it, right? There's a lot of great references and things that we can use out there
yeah.
as well. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. I haven't streamed in some time, and do I am more active on the Discord. I did put a link in there. I'll put in some links again later on. If
Let's
you
see.
have any
So I
questions,
know it's doing a lot of customization stuff. Oh yeah, I had two versions of um Fairy Godmother, but like I think there was like an audio thing and I had to go back and the save didn't save correctly. Like it didn't auto save before I did this. So I had to go back and remake her. I'll do that. So that sounds like I think she had like some jewelry. Like later. Yeah, so she had like there's like a little bit of difference. I did put in the final product in the Discord as well. Stuff. She had like more makeup and stuff. But let's see. So they kind of talked about all this cool stuff. So I know like within video games, when you're making character customization, everybody has like a different opinion about what's good and what's bad about it. I personally like a lot of all the different stuff about them, and then like little blurbs about everything. How do you feel about those? Because I know some people are like, I just want to play the game and go.
Uh, I think character customization is definitely pretty good as long as the game is designed around the character and
Mm-hmm.
the character creation and the different things that you can do with your created character. Because sometimes there are games where you will have a created character and then you'll have like other characters there too. So it's kind of like a lot of the polishing is like split between everybody instead of like your character, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but character creation is neat because it's cool to see all the stuff that you can create. It's nice to see other people's creations too, because that could be a good source of inspiration for what you would like to make. So I think character creation is nice. In general, it's just you know, I want to see like the different stuff that you could use with your character and what makes your created character unique from the other characters in said world of the game.
Yeah, and that's always kind of hard to do in some regards too for some games because it's how do you make sure it meshes well? How do you know if it's too much for character customization or too little? Are you gonna see it a lot? Is it important to the story or is it only important to the player? So it's always very interesting to see what you can do with character customization in the sense of like their faces, but then also like what outfits they wear too. And then while we work on that, because this is the part where hold on, excuse me. So Bryce was talking about they and I were working through like pretty much everything, and then just some feedback here. And then it kind of goofed. Whoops, the save spot happened, but then I was able to do that. And that this one, where is she? Ooh, eyes closed, but this is where she is for the final customization. So this part was kind of like exploring the world and seeing stuff.
like in the beginning. But I want to get to some of the other points of the interview. Let me see. Really nice. I do remember you saying Todd's favorite thing was NASA punk. You want to explain?
Oh, okay.
Not
So
look at the menu. This part's kind of cool. They explain a little bit like the aesthetics um of the game design and everything, and it's really cool, like the real world inspiration that they get it from. So we'll talk
Yep,
for the
we'll
whole
have that
time.
playing.
Hold on,
I
okay, let me.
do. I do love the Starfield logo in the menu, though. I think it's really cool.
Honestly, yeah, the aesthetics for everything are really nice. I do
Yes.
remember you saying Todd's favorite thing was NASA punk. You want to explain that a little bit? Like, why'd he specifically choose NASA? You know, space stuff, obviously, but like, do you know any bit more about that?
I don't know why he chose it. Um, when he was describing it, he just said, when he was describing Starfield, he just described it as being NASA punk, which it very much is. um, Actually, I think part of it is because, uh, I think NASA is in Florida, isn't it, or something like that?
Yeah,
Um,
depends the base. Because I know there's something in Texas too. Because
yeah,
I've been the ones with actually, I've been there. It's pretty cool.
yeah. Oh, nice.
Hmm.
I know that. I don't know the details, but like I'm pretty sure that Todd like or other developers, the higher up developers went to NASA and like looked at like spaceships and everything that they had.
Hmm.
Um and there was a lot of collaboration between NASA and the developers.
Yeah.
Um
Wow.
and like the game uses actual like images that were taken of the planets and things like that.
Oh.
Um and there are some areas of the game where like you can see like NASA still exists in this game, or rather, you can see that it used to exist.
Hmm.
Like if you,
Ooh.
it's part of the quest. I don't want to do any spoilers, so I won't go into it too much. But you can see it's part of the main quest, so you'll
Hmm.
see it later on as you play. It'll take a while. You probably won't get to it in this playthrough unless
Hmm.
you like speed run the main quest, but you'll see it there. And you can see in like the spacesuits, they look very, I guess
Huh.
you could say,
Okay.
retro.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just uh I feel like it's also more grounded in reality than some other space games because like
Hmm.
um there's no like alien races, unfortunately. There's no what's some other sci-fi things. Well, oh, like the robots. The robots feel very retro, at least to me.
Oh, okay. Let me figure out this whole thing. How to get back to that menu? Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah, then they got a
Let me
little
do
lost
some of
here.
this stuff because I was like, what do I do? Yeah. So they were talking about like some of the menu assets and like how things work. Let's see. Talking a bit about the world. So let me see. Yeah, talking about some of the. Oh, okay. So this is a real cool part. So it was. This segment was me interacting with the world. So I know I mentioned like how does the character look within the world doesn't make sense and everything, but it's not just that. It's how do you make the world feel realistic and interact with the world. So I'm gonna play this, but I'm not gonna have the audio for the stream itself. From the interview section of the stream playing. Let me see. There we go. Oops. So, we're seeing, everything over here. Can you see my mouse on in here? Okay. Yeah, so you can see me like trying to figure things out with the weapon down here, but then you're able to see like all the robots coming in, the people over on the sides. Ooh, like that guy caught on fire. But then you see like all the enemies actually shooting at people. and then you have me as the player, like interacting with the world kind of how I want to interact with it. There's some really cool stuff too that comes up, like like I was even like, oh my gosh, like what just happened? I didn't really register what happened. It's some small little things, and like I was shooting at the backpack and it exploded. So I guess like one of I don't even want to say like a question, but I'm curious. Like for me, when I'm playing games, that's how I get. That's how I'm immersed into the game, right? It's all these tiny little things like, oh, I blew up somebody's back with the backpack right on fire. Can I do that again? So that gets me, see, I was able to do it again there, but I was able to see something and kind of ask questions, and I was allowed to ask questions within the game while I was playing it in the sense of like, can I do something if this happens? And there are some games that are trying to do more of that recently. I've been noticing that more as a trend in things like Breath of the Wild 2 or Tears of the Kingdom, not Breath of the Wild 2. Everybody was calling it that for forever. But it gave you the opportunity to do a lot of open world and allowed the player to ask those questions and do that kind of stuff. So I'm curious, Friar, is that something that you look into when you play games? Like, what's the type of game you like to play? Like, for me, it's open world adventure stuff for that reason.
So the type of games I like to play, the thing is I can play anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anything from fighting games to sports games to open world games, action adventure games, traditional RPGs, and action RPGs, which are becoming a bit more popular now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I can really play anything. So I guess my conditions for what I look for changes depending on the type of game that I'm playing. So if it is a fighting game, it's if the characters are fun, if learning it feels worth it, and that means like the type of inputs that you're putting in, the execution, how fast paced the game is, um, and there's also the competitive aspect of it, how difficult it is, how well you can do up against like some of your friends or maybe online, and testing yourself that way. When it comes for like an open world, like a game like Starfield, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm along the same lines as you, where it's like, how can I interact with the world? Can I ask questions while still playing and have the game answer those questions that I'm asking? How well does my character interact with the world, interact with other people? The tiny stuff too, maybe like some Easter eggs
Mm-hmm.
and attention to detail as well. Kind of like how you brought up, you shot the backpack and it exploded, so attention to detail and things like that. Um, Also, there's one thing universally that I look for in every game, and that is difficulty. If
Ooh, nice.
you know, if it's not saying that I'm looking for like the hardest game ever, but something that tests me and something that pushes me to learn more and to do a bit more. That may not necessarily have to do with difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
But just stuff that in the game that's like, okay, we're pushing you to do more. We're pushing you to get a little bit out of your comfort zone a little bit. We're pushing you to even make risky decisions, and things of that nature.
Yeah, because I feel like, yeah, definitely attention to details in games. But then there's also, I like that difficulty aspect too. I like being able to choose, is it going to be really easy? Like when I was streaming it, I was playing, as I said, easy baby mode. But I also like being able to just feel powerful when I'm playing games. I'm like, yes, put it in easy mode, let's go. Or, if I need to, get humble, play it on the hardest difficulty and cry in the corner a little bit. But, that's fine. Bloodborne, I'm looking at you. Because that was a game I couldn't. I couldn't do, right? It was just like, oh, I can't do this, but that doesn't mean it's a bad game. And I think that's a I know Bryce and I didn't talk about it, but I think that was something that when you're playing games and then making them as well, it's you might be working on a game, you yourself, and you mentioned it before too, is you might absolutely not like this game style or anything at all. But if you know how to work on it and you know how to play it, you just might end up getting an opportunity if you're looking into working in game development. You might be working on that for a little bit. That might be your first big gig, that might be your first AAA. So it's always good to expand your horizons in that sense for sure.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. Uh,
mm-hmm.
One thing that I forgot to mention that I really did like games, I touched upon it a little bit, but it's kind of like the risky decision making. Like if a game gives you choices that completely alter the path of the story, like if you choose this path, you might get like the good ending, and if you choose
Mm-hmm.
like some other path, you might get an alternate or bad ending, and stuff like that. So that's also something I look for in games. But definitely, yeah, if you know how to like work around the game, even if like you yourself you may not like it, it may be a game that you end up working on um in the future. So it's always good to keep an open eye out and uh to be open to everything. It's not the right word I'm looking for, but that's just the first thing that popped up in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Um but it's always just great to be open, because even if you might not like something, once again, other people, there might be a whole market of people out there that like it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just, beneficial to pay attention to all types of games and know how to maneuver through them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know there were some people that work in really big AAA company games and they might not even play the game ever, they just work on it. Which I don't know how I would feel about that. I would want to play the game that I worked on, but I guess because he worked on it, it'll be hard to separate that fun and then work.
Yeah. I think it depends. For me, it would depend, but
Hmm.
I think for every type of game that I would make, I would like to play it. Like,
Right?
I would definitely like to play it. But I think that's just like the gamer in me talking. Of
Right?
course, like, some people have that disassociation where it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, they like games, but maybe they don't like it to the same extent that the next person likes it. So they're perfectly fine with just not playing it.
Yeah.
Or, they have their set games that they play and they just play those and no other game. So, but
Hmm.
for me, I think like if I made something, I'd like to test it.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's like when you're making your game first, you're not gonna like. Let's say you're working on music, right? You might not ever see the characters until the game comes out. So I can imagine working on one game and not being able to see the full product and the final product. It would feel to me it would feel weird. It's like, no, I want to see everything. I want to see all the work that everybody put into this.
Yeah, yeah, I'm the same way. I would just love to see everything about
Hmm.
the game, and because like in a way it is like it is your creation. It's something that,
Yeah.
well, of course you might not have like the lead role and like the story and stuff like that, but it's something that you help contribute to. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like your creation. Like let's say like you're creating a character. That's something that you created. It came out of your head, and now you've made it real. So it's something that like I would like to test out my creation. I would like to see my creation in its fullest.
Absolutely. So I know this part they were talking about some like Easter egg stuff, like the base not the base yeah, the baseball like on top of the pyramid was like a reference to Fallout 76, I think what Bryce was saying. Um about like a city or something there. Now this part was really cool. I started joking around like, oh, what if you can actually press all the buttons and have it manually work? And Bryce is like, well, actually, you can. like if it was possible, if they had programmed all the buttons, all of those here, and I'll go back to it again. Um all of those like buttons and everything, you are able, like those are like real consoles that they reference NASA, and it can't be exactly copy and paste because of security issues on their end. All the radars work, all the buttons work, and like how cool would that be? And I mentioned this in the stream too. If somebody like made a physical console for that, so when they're in like the space thing, like they have to press all those buttons to make it work. That'd be a lot, but you never
That
know.
would be a lot. Yeah.
You never know. I bet you there's somebody out there working on it. They paused it right here and they're like, oh my goodness, yes, this is perfect screenshots. And then a year later, it's like, I have an entire working console for this. It's like, bro, that would be cool.
That would be cool. That would be really cool. And you never know. Yeah, there could be someone out there just looking at it and being like, "Oh yeah, let's try something."
I mean, they do that a lot in like um racing games. Have you seen like the racing setups that some people have? Like they have like pedals, they have wheels, they have those gaming chairs that will turn and move like you're actually turning the car.
Yeah. There's actually a game that I think it's called like is it called Driving Simulator?
I
I think
don't
that's what it's called.
know. What's
I,
it
th- I,
called? Let me see. What's it called?
Driving Simulator, and like you have the wheel, you have the gas, you have the brakes, you have your gears and everything. I'm pretty sure you have your gears that you can set it to, and it's just like you're driving, like in an actual car.
I know there's um truck driving simulator and stuff. Which is again, that's a perfect example. You could be like, "Yes, I'm working on a video game. What game are you working on? Truck Driving Simulator 5." Heck yeah. And again, that might not be a game you want, but it's like those details, and Two for Fun mentioned this in the chat. Is the attention to details in video games are so important. Like the buttons here, even if they don't do anything for us as a player, they're still like an actual thing to do, which I think is very important because I know, um, kind of referencing back in some of the stuff I used to work on in film, they would put things on movie screens where a perfect example of it in hospital scenes, in medical fields, there'll be terms and things on the screens that if you don't have a medical background, you're gonna see the pulse monitor and all this other stuff and vitals and everything else and hear them say like, oh, their vitals are low or this or that. Us not being in that department, we're gonna be like, oh, vitals are low, they're bad. But then you ask like a medical professional and they're like, yeah, that doesn't exist. Or like that person is dying, they're not stabilizing. Like it's
Yeah.
really funny to see like what you can get away with in things like in movies versus like in games, because people are, from what I've noticed, for both being somebody who plays games, works on them, who watches movies, and who worked on them, gamers are more nitpicky than movie watchers because you're able to revisit things in games, or you're able to pause them and you have the time to really look at things versus a movie. It's an hour and a half to 3 hours, right, of a movie, and things are going so fast. There's so much more happening on the screen that they're trying to get your attention away from certain glaring things, or maybe the plot's so crazy you're like, I can't pay attention to this. So it's always interesting to see like those little things that you can and can't get away with in games and other forms of entertainment as well.
Yeah. It's a funny that you brought up the movies because that's really an important thing because
Hmm.
you got if you want to find all of that stuff as the average person, not talking about like somebody who would like probably see the movie early and like review it,
Hmm.
uh but to the average person you'd probably have to wait for like a DVD release or Netflix release or something like that in order for you to actually like pause and see like, oh, that this happened, because you're at the movie theater,
Hmm.
you can't pause it, you just gotta pay attention, and if you miss something, you miss something.
Yup. You get to go use the bathroom, you miss something. You sneeze, you close your eyes, you miss something. You can't go back and rewind it. Can you imagine? I wonder if somebody's ever done that in the middle of a movie theater. That was just like, excuse me, rewind it.
Oh man.
That would be
Maybe,
wild.
maybe. I maybe. I
Maybe.
think they probably got turned down, but maybe.
Right. So I know in this part, I will say it was very difficult to interview somebody and then also like learn the game because I had never played Starfield. The first time I was playing it was during the interview. I'm like, I don't know what to do, so this is kind of hard. But I think a good way to indicate how easy to follow your game is. Oh yeah, just have it kind of quiet. Just because it's the stream, I didn't want to like both of the voices like kind of going over. Right now I'm just kind of talking about like the space stuff in there. But we do pause it every now and then when Bryce is saying something about the game development. But real quick though, before I do go to some other parts of the audio, because in the first mission, I want you guys to hear some of that part where they were talking about it when they were testing it. Um, and here, I think it's a really good indicator when you're making a game for an audience that might not have ever played it. That I was, even though like barely paying attention to the tutorial and stuff, I was still able to figure out like how to play this, how to make it work, how to shoot and everything. I was like, all right, I struggled a little here and there, but that's always a really good. You could tell that they did their homework on who was testing it and everything, seeing what works and what doesn't work overall. I'm gonna fast forward a bit to that first planet. Yeah, so this part, a little bit more. Let's see. Okay, so here, let me see. Yeah, so here in this part, what I'm gonna be doing is letting Bryce explain what they were doing on like testing for this specific mission. So I'm just grabbing my list for you. Just playing and seeing all this fun stuff. This
Yeah,
is my first.
definitely.
I really want to work there. They've worked on other games as well. We've talked about it briefly. They're a
Little
quality
crabs.
assurance QA tester for the game Starfield. And again, I really want to thank you so much for coming here and joining us today. It's been so far. It's been really fun just playing and seeing all this fun stuff. This
Yeah.
is the first time I'm playing it too, so like everything's new to me. So I'm kind of like taking everything in, but it's like, oh wait, I have to still have to keep on track with everything. So I do want to go ahead and get that started. So, what were the challenges working on QA as a remote worker?
So, um, when I was still in school, uh, I want to start with that first because,
Yeah.
um, before I graduated, I think the last year before I graduated, last semester rather, last two semesters. The first semester, I joined a class to work on a
Oh,
game.
so I had it on a pretty decent setting just because this is like a recording, like a stream, and then I'm streaming that. The quality is kind of low, but it looks better like on the actual thing. But I had to lower it because the when they were testing and making this game, they were testing it and creating it on like the highest, newest computer products. I could actually go in to see it, but it's not super super low. But the HD full details is kind of insane. I recommend using a desktop and not a laptop. I have a gaming laptop, like not old, maybe 2 years if even that. And she was overheating a little bit. I felt her cry. So I was like, ooh, lower all the graphical stuff. So if you have a great computer, play it on the high settings. Absolutely.
which was actually 2 different classes put together because they wanted to make an actual game that could be played and everything. Um, because they don't really do that a lot there because it's difficult to make a full-fledged game. Which this wasn't even a full-fledged game. It was just a
And you were
what do
mentioning
they
that
call
too,
it?
Friar. The game
I can't remember the
timeline.
word. Slice of a level or something.
Yeah,
Can't
yeah,
remember.
yeah. I mentioned
Not
that
a
a bit
demo?
earlier.
Is it a demo?
Mhm. No,
Not a
it's
demo?
it's got the word slice
Two
in it. I
for
just can't
fun
remember the
says
actual term.
that they
But
have a 4070. 4070 is
so we were
nice.
making
Yeah.
that
Oh
for
yeah, you should be fine.
one semester
You should be
using
fine,
2
yeah.
whole classes.
Wow.
And they also
I
wanted
really
that to
want one of the
be
40
like actual
series,
like
but
working in an actual studio, which it
oh
very
man,
much
I told
was.
myself I
Just
wouldn't buy
in a
anything and
school
save money for a while.
So save
So
your
setting.
money. You
But
gotta
that
save your
so
gaming money.
we started with that working in the classroom, and then COVID happened. So then for the second semester of that class,
I can't even spend the
um,
gaming money.
Oh
we all
no, you
were
gotta
working
save.
from home.
I gotta beat
So that was
games.
my first
Well,
experience with
so
working on
like
a game from home.
saving. I have to beat the games. I can't buy
We
anything
just
until I beat
chatted
the
through a
majority of the games I
messenger
have.
app. It was Discord, and like everybody would just, oh, you found one of those little guys. Um,
And then when
we just
Bryce is done
communicated through
talking about
that.
this whole
Like people
segment,
would
I
do
want to talk about some of that
their
remote work
role,
stuff
and
too.
then if they could, they would send it through Discord. Um, like I was just doing the art for that, so I would just send my images through Discord.
Yeah.
The thing that was difficult.
Well, too for fun. I have a great news for you about VR games. Fairy Godmother Gaming World is actually developing 2 VR games. Just had to pause it because I don't want you guys to miss anything for that. And they are for older audiences. There's going to be one that's exclusive membership, workshops, and all that cool fun stuff. But then there's also one that's going to be a free open world, and there'll be some cool events like meet and greets and everything like that. Keep an eye out for those. We'll promo them when we get closer to the release date. Now start the video again.
For some people
Definitely
was
something to look forward to.
the game
Definitely.
itself, the engine stuff, because like if someone worked on it, um, they would have to find a way to like people
Oh,
couldn't
you'll
work
be
on it
fine.
all at the same time because if someone worked on it, um, if 2 people were working on it
Not
at
older than
once,
30. Yeah, so it would
like they'd
definitely
be
be
saving
within that
different
age
versions.
range.
So
18
making
plus
all that stuff
mature.
worked was
Yeah, a granny
a
simulator. Oh
challenge that they had to
no.
get through. I was not a part of that because I didn't do that stuff. Like it
Okay,
involved
so
That's the
jot
coding and
that
first
everything.
time
down.
I've
Granny
ever heard that.
simulator. We'll work on that next time, right?
But yeah, just like seeing
That's
that
the
and like
first time I've
being a
ever
part
heard
of
of
it and
something like
experiencing
that.
that was a good first experience with working from home. And then when I
I
started
don't like that
working at
granny
Bethesda a year
simulator,
later,
no.
basically a year later after I graduated, I started as work from home immediately because at the time everybody was working from home because there were still COVID fears going around. Um, so uh, Bethesda only hires people near the office, which I think a lot of companies do anyways.
Yeah.
It's rare for a studio to accept remote work from anywhere. Um, but I was close enough to the office that I could go there, which I had to because I had to pick up the computer I've been using to work. So I did that, picked up the computer, set it up at my house, and then just uh like learned how everything worked through online meetings, and then just did my job that way. And it's pretty simple. I feel like the most challenging part of it is just communication, but that's also challenging in person too. So it's just a different type of difficult, I guess.
Yeah. So I do want to talk about that real quick, and then there's some other parts too, because we have about like 30, maybe 45 minutes left. Um, while I'm looking slash trying to remember some other parts that they were talking about game development stuff. I know it was like a little bit later on. Yeah, about here. Um, so remote work is crazy. Yeah. How 9,000. Like remote work is wild. If nobody has ever done remote work, which I'd be very surprised if you haven't at this point. But if you haven't, it's interesting to do video game development stuff. You know, Friar and I and some other people on our team are working on video games, like I mentioned, the VR games, as well as the 2D dating simulator. It's not just communicating, but it's making sure people have their files correctly, the updated files, depending how it's set up for every company is different. I won't go too much into the details on like who has access to what and everything, but it's that I think is, for me personally, from what I've been working on with stuff, is one of the most challenging things of remote work is making sure everybody has what they need. How's it for you, Friar? Because you're one of my programmers. Which one is the what's harder for you? Is it communicating? Is it having what you need, or anything else?
Before we get into that, Two for Fun had a question about the 2D dating simulator,
Yeah,
saying is that for older audiences as well?
that one is a little bit for older audiences. I would recommend at least being like 17, around there. It is a dating simulator with adults, so 18 would be the best. Honestly, I would go for that. There's not really any like inappropriate things in that regards, but the characters are all adults. So keep that in mind. There's a diverse cast of them as well. Um, we have some people who are LGBT. We have people with different races, different genders, all that fun stuff, and some other cool things that I won't talk about that are in there as well. Um, that one is going to be that one's our 2D dating simulator one. So you don't have to worry about having the highest tech or anything like that. If you have a laptop or computer that can open Steam, you're pretty much good to play it. No crazy graphics like this one where you need like a 4K computer or anything. So you should be good to play that one.
So to answer your question about the online work, the hardest thing is definitely communication.
Mhm.
I would say that's probably the hardest thing. Um, Getting the materials, that's not too much of a problem, at least for me. Um, but it's definitely the communicating aspect because everybody's so far away from each other. Some people might not feel like they want to communicate or that they have to communicate.
Mhm.
And sometimes people, like if you're trying to communicate with them, they don't answer in time, or it's hard to schedule meetings with them just due to communication. So communication would be the only struggle. Overall, I do like working remote.
Mhm.
Uh,
Same.
to me, it's no different from working in the office as long as like the communication is right and everybody's talking with each other, then
Mhm.
and working their respective hours, then there's no issue. It's literally the same as working in the office, just at the house.
Yep.
Um, I guess working in the office has its benefits that you get out the house for some people who like to, get out, and move around a bit.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the only issue is communication at times.
Yeah, for sure. And then you can't wear sweatpants at in the office. I mean, you can, but that won't be professional now, will it? And then to answer a little bit more of your questions too for fun, yes, the dating simulator is for an older audience. We kind of wanted to change that up as well. There's some exclusive cool places in there. You get to see how it is living the high life. Go into some cool venues that, in real life would be quite difficult to get into, but we wanted to give a nice exposure to that luxurious life that some people may not be able to have. And yes, you probably could run it on a potato. I'll be honest. You can probably run it on the easiest things. I know that was something not on a potato, but I know running it on things like mobile devices was something we were thinking about doing. Now we'll see how that goes. Again, we were having the little kerfuffle with Unity. Fingers crossed that is something to do. So if you don't have a laptop, keep an eye out for that. One of the best ways to keep an eye out for any announcements like that would be joining through a Discord. I'll send you the link in the chat actually real quick. And then not only that, we also have a link to our sponsors, Magic Feet Compression Socks, supporting heroes and winners. Ouch. Our Twitch as well. Highly recommend watching that as well. So Unity, there is this huge debacle happening where they're now doing an installation fee for any games that you might have. Now, so you, the player, aren't gonna get charged the fee, but for us, developers, we'll get charged a fee. So if you download a game, uninstall it, reinstall it, every time you install it, we're gonna get charged however amount they want to charge it. Now it's not gonna be an immediate thing. That's actually gonna be rolling in and around January 2024. But a lot of people are really concerned about that. Some of the really big names, one of the Among Us devs actually just got off the phone recently, I think yesterday, with Unity themselves, the developers asking questions and figuring things out. So some people might actually be switching from Unity to other game engines, like Unreal, Godot, Game Maker 2, some other things, just because those are the alternatives that we have currently, and there's some more too, but ones that won't charge you an installation fee. Yeah, I think we're going good. We're still keeping strong. We're still working through on our games. Things have been going pretty well. Aside from that, honestly, has been, that's the thing about video game development, right? It's, you might be working on something for like a year or so, and then boom, suddenly this happens, right? So you always have to be able to adapt to what's going on as fast as it happens. And sometimes you just can't, where I can't say too much about it, but for progress for some of the games, we're pretty far along, and sometimes there aren't options where we can switch. So it's like, what do you do in those situations? Well, it's adapting to them as best as you can, rolling with the punches and stuff, but we'll be fine. We'll be good. But like I said, I'll keep you guys updated. Absolutely. Adapt and overcome. Where's that one meme? I can't find it right now, but that one where he's pointing at the screen. Improvise, adapt, overcome. That one.
It's a good motto to go by.
But yeah, I'll keep you guys posted with that in the Discord as well. I'll probably be sending some links in there tonight too about Unity. I'll try to find that post that the Among Us developer made as well. The reason why I bring them up and a lot of people are concerned about that whole thing is because they're a small indie company. There's not that many. I think maybe like 20 people. Because what's crazy about games like that, very early on in the stream, and sometimes Bryce mentions it in the stream itself, in the interview as well, is that game does that. It says I'm streaming Apex Legends. Oh my gosh, that's funny. I don't know why it's doing that. Why is it? I don't even have a game in there. Okay. Huh.
It says we're streaming Apex.
Yeah, that's weird. It don't even have a game in there. But for the thing for Among Us, right, it's like you just kind of start somewhere small. That started off as a college game jam project, and look where it's at now. It's a cultural phenomenon. I don't know why it's saying we're streaming Apex Legends. Thanks for letting me know when I don't have that happening on Restream.
Yeah, I checked it too. I
This
didn't
is
see. I
certainly
think
not Apex Legends. Let's switch it to Starfield, right? I can't pick that on here. Well, we'll change it later.
yeah, we'll have to change it later, most likely.
Well, thank you for letting me know. Let me play this segment here, and then one of the later segments as well for some of the stuff that Bryce was talking about as well before we end the stream. Let me grab this one.
Yeah. I do like the new lock picking, but like I've heard players complain that like they don't know what they're doing. So
Oh, dang.
yeah, and we've tried telling the developers that, but they haven't done anything yet. But hopefully they will one day.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm curious with this screen talking with NPCs and everything. They're loaded into a world. It's not like a cutscene or anything like that. Has anything ever happened with any of the characters or something going on in the background when you're talking to somebody? Like, does somebody just explode or anything like that?
Not explode. I think one of the main things that's been happening lately is that you'll be talking to somebody and then another NPC who's not related to whoever you're talking to or the quest or whatever, they'll just walk into whoever you're talking to and just push them away.
Oh my
Or
gosh.
yeah, or the NPC that you're talking to will just be walking away.
What? No, come back.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's great. I love little
Yeah.
bugs like that. It's like, huh, this isn't like game breaking, but also,
Yeah, it's a little bit immersion breaking and sometimes annoying depending on what's happening, but yeah.
mm-hmm.
But that stuff is already known, so it'll get fixed eventually.
So let's see.
Try to persuade him.
Oh, persuade him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my mouse was over there. It's like, Herm, what to do? So let's see. Let's persuade him. Yeah, come on. Uh oh. Kind words. I don't think this gentleman will take too kindly to my words. So let's
Yeah.
see. Um. 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 Okay, how about this? Before I pick, chat, Twitch chat. Y'all decide for me. What should we do? Oh, you gotta love the Bethesda bugs. I think this what makes the games, honestly. And then while I wait for them to decide, let's see, because I know you answered some of the questions earlier on when we were doing some gameplay stuff. Which is like you were working at Bethesda for 2 years, or about to be 2 years.
Yes.
And then specifically with Starfield. Okay. So, what were the key gameplay mechanics that you've been testing in Starfield?
There's a lot.
Name the one that you remember that you really liked testing, and the one you disliked testing.
Oh, what was
If you
it?
can talk about it. If you can't, that's fine.
I just have to remember because I tested so many different things over the 2 years.
So they are working on bringing mods to
Um,
Starfield. I did ask Bryce that.
I I I liked testing quests a lot.
The mods will
Which
definitely
I
be
did
something
a
to look
lot of that
forward
at the
to.
beginning, and then after a year, I ended up not testing them as much, which kind of sucked.
Mm.
And I remember the thing I don't like testing. I can't remember what it is, but I know it's something. I think it was what was it? I did it somewhat recently. There's a lot going on with that fight.
Ooh, the audio's kind of loud. Hold on. Or is it loud on your end? You know, I don't want you to get drowned out. I know the music can get kind of loud.
It seems fine to me. Maybe turn up the voices.
Let's see. I think this kind of decent. I mean, you're what's why people are here. Excuse me, Brogan. I love using the laser, honestly. Whenever I play a full playthrough of this on my own, or be it streaming, we'll see what happens. I think I'm gonna only just use a laser if possible.
Yeah, to answer your question, I think it was building ships that I don't like doing.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, because you said you can upgrade ships and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually,
So,
I take that back. It's building outposts. That's what it was. I hate building
outposts.
outposts.
Oh
Yeah.
no. Mm. And then what was one that you really enjoyed doing?
The quests.
Ooh, that's always fun. Is there fall damage in this game?
Yes.
Dang it.
I'm gonna
See, I usually
gently.
test for fall damage in all the games, but I really didn't want to start
Oh,
that
and
over
another
just in
thing I hate
case.
testing. Um,
So I just asked.
is this quest. This very first quest.
Oh, okay.
Because I played this quest like over 100 times.
Oh god, so you're getting like QA flashbacks. You're like, no more, please, no more.
Yeah. And I still have to test it. Because we do a specific kind of testing that's called smoke test, which is just making sure the build works basically, that
Mhm.
whatever the newest build is. And it requires going through the first mission. And I have to I there were some times where I had to do it every single day for weeks.
Oh
I'm
my
so sick of it.
gosh. Ooh.
But it's necessary.
Yeah,
And
especially the first missions.
yeah, and when I first started, like it was a volunteer thing.
Hmm.
Um and so they were like asking people all the time, like, can someone do this? Can someone do this? And so like I said, yes, I can do this. And volunteering for this for that stuff for people for things that people did not uh want to do or just they didn't offer to do whenever they asked for somebody. That's what helped me get from starting as a contractor when I first started out to
Hmm.
becoming a full-time employee.
Oh, well, look at that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's actually pretty cool. Sometimes doing stuff you don't want to do. That's going to be questioned later on. Like the Friar and I were mentioning earlier. Sometimes that's just the way to go. And then people are going to remember that's like, oh, you stepped up where other people didn't step up at. Absolutely. Some of the best advice. Now, let's see, we have about 12 minutes left. So I want to go to some other places real quick.
Two for fun to answer your question. Yeah. Testing. Um, we've got to. You know, it's a requirement for any game to test it out and see if
A
everything
lot.
works.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got that covered.
Yeah, and if you're ever interested, in the process of working on video games, we actually have some openings as well. Um, in the Discord, message me or the Friar, um, and we'll let you know, like, hey, exactly what's going on. We have a couple positions open as well, because we're starting up as a small indie company as well, and it's gonna take a lot of process and a lot of work. But honestly, it's been great. I wouldn't change it for anything. I mean, other than the Unity thing, that would be the only thing I would change. But everything else is great.
Yeah, if you have a passion for making games or let's say streaming as well, if you have a passion for any of those two things, join the Discord. We'll probably have to drop another link at
Yeah.
least before the stream ends.
Hmm.
Join the Discord and then message one of us, the Scribe or the Friar.
Yeah. We have a couple of things for it. Oh, actually, let me just in case you are curious to hear a bit more about what Bryce was saying, exactly what they were testing on. Here, hold on, and then I'll answer your question.
Uh, so that every planet had a tester assigned to it. We tested all the planets by like having assigning everybody their own planet or a bunch of different planets rather. Um, so that every planet had a tester assigned to it, and we tested like to make sure the scanner worked and that the information for it was correct, and that we also tested all the biomes. Like, it's a lot.
That's wild. So before we go to the next question, were there any planets that you were assigned?
Yes. I do not remember which ones because there were so many.
Yeah, that's what I hear. There's just so many planets, but that's cool. It's like, ooh, this is my planet. It's Planet
Yes.
Bryce.
Yes.
Yeah, some fun little stuff like that. So what we do offer is currently, if you are interested in working in programming, that's one of the biggest things that we need. We do have positions open for both virtual reality programming, as well as the 2D dating simulator. So if it's something like, oh, I want to get better at working in virtual reality stuff, we have positions open for that. Or if you're really learning how to work in games and you've never used Unity, we'll do some stuff where it's like, okay, let's see which one works best because you might be pretty good at 3D stuff, but VR stuff can get pretty complicated. So doing things with like the 2D aspect would be a bit better introduction. For average salaries, so that's something that we will discuss about. You gotta apply, and then we will do stuff on, fingers crossed, right? You do get an interview for it. That's what we'll talk about it in there. Because then it also depends the position you're gonna apply for too. So here's some other. Let me see. We can probably do like one more area. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so this is funny enough. You mentioned the stuff about money. This segment right here, they're talking about some how they had to work through and get like stuff raised up so they can move out and working on things too for salary for extra income and stuff. The company itself has been around for quite some time. I think about 25 years, but then working for the video game department that was recently brought up within the past 2 years. I think it's about to be 2 years. What, September? Yeah. So it's been about 2 years for specifically video game development. We're always trying to see, and explore different things here at Fairy Godmother, especially with like the gaming stuff. Like this is fairly new, so I think it's streaming and game development happened almost at around the same time. Let me play this part real quick for the since you mentioned salary, like what they did.
Well, I was you go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, because that's what I was gonna say is game jams. Funny
Oh,
enough, that's kind of how I started getting my feet wet essentially on
yeah.
some of the stuff that I worked with in doing game development. It's you start off small. For anybody who's curious about game jams, it's you take. It depends the game jam. I have been in one where it's only a 24-hour game jam, and then one that's been 72 hours. So like hammer, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
So when I wasn't doing that part-time job after I
you absolutely can back that up 100%.
yeah. Yeah, like when I was looking for my job after I graduated from school, um like what I was doing was I had a part-time job, and when I wasn't doing that part-time job, I was either developing my portfolio or finding game jams and working on those with other people. So Like you got to be proactive and like always trying to improve your skills, basically.
Mhm. And you just never know the connections you come from that either.
Yeah.
There are some people that I know, and I won't say it for now because they might be a guest later on. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Follow the Discord so you can keep an eye on that.
So
They've
just
worked
in
on
case, I don't
some
want to
really big games
have the
too.
time
Like
go
I can't.
over.
Let me see. I'm trying to remember. There was some other person because there's so much that Bryce and I talked about. We're only able to capture some of the stuff here and discuss about it from our perspectives as game developers, the Friar and I, but also like just being able to talk about everything within that 2.5 hour time. It's honestly the best way to get all the answers that you want answered from Bryce. Hopefully, they were able to get through a lot of the questions that we gave them. It's just really seeing that stream. It's up on Twitch now. Twitch only has it for a very limited amount of time, so I highly recommend going over and go see it. In case you aren't following us, which you should be, because we're going to be planning doing some really cool stuff like this in the future, some other special streams and special events like this. I put that link in the chat as well as our Discord. That's a great way to reach out to the Friar and I if you specifically have game development questions. But just hang out with us as well. Some of the other streamers are still in there too. We're chatting it up, keeping everything updated about future games that we're developing as well as streaming. I also want to thank our sponsors, Magic Free Compression Socks, for supporting heroes and winners. If you sit down a lot or if you walk around a lot, I cannot recommend these socks enough. They're very comfortable. They're cottony. They don't feel like that weird medical elastic material that just gets kind of gross. Like these are socks. Highly recommend them. 10 out of 10. Go grab a pair. Super comfy. And then we also have our Twitch in there too. So you can go see the stream where I was interviewing Bryce for all the cool QA questions as well. Friar, did you have anything you wanted to say or add before we jump off, or anybody in the chat? Did you have any questions before we sign off for the night?
Yeah, so I want to say something real quick. Be sure to check out all our other socials. Make sure to follow us on Twitch as we are very close to 300 followers on Twitch. I think we're about like 10 away.
Ooh.
And we're very close. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube because we're very close to 200 on YouTube. Definitely make sure to check out our sponsor at Magic Feet and get you some very, very comfortable compression socks. The most comfortable compression socks out there. Actually want the most comfort while you are gaming and just for general uses as well. I would like to thank everybody who came here to view this interview and our reaction to it, and everybody who came through on Friday for that stream on Twitch as well, as that was a very successful stream.
Mhm.
I would just want to thank you all and definitely appreciate you all because without you guys there wouldn't be uh the streams. So thank you for everything, and that's all I wanted to say.
Awesome. Well, thank you for those awesome words as well. Yeah, just another thank you as well for me too. We really couldn't do it without you guys. I do want to say as well a big, massive thank you, as well as supporting us on streams, because that has also helped us see like what audience likes. The support and the positivity you guys just have been giving us has been amazing, that we were able to be like, hey, you know what, this could be something else that we can evolve into. And slowly over time we started making our games. So we really do appreciate it absolutely so much here at Fairy Godmother Gaming World. And with that, we'll sign off. Take it easy, stay safe, and see you Starside.